What did the most powerful man in human history whisper to himself every morning before facing the day? Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, commander of the greatest military force the world had ever seen, ruler of 60 million souls, began each day not with declarations of his power, but with reminders of his humanity. Today I will meet meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly people, he wrote in his private diary. But here's what's extraordinary: this wasn't pessimism. This was preparation. And it was just the beginning of a 7-part morning routine that transformed absolute power into profound wisdom. Think about this paradox. The man who could execute anyone with a word, who could declare war on nations with a gesture, who had unlimited wealth and authority, chose to start each day by reminding himself of his limitations, his mortality, and his need for constant growth. While most people with far less power let it corrupt them completely, Marcus Aurelius wielded absolute authority with unprecedented humility. How? Through a secret morning routine that he never intended anyone to discover. These weren't public proclamations or political theater. These were private conversations with his own soul, written in a diary he called, to himself, what we now know as meditations. When these personal notes were found nearly 2,000 years later, they revealed something shocking. The most powerful man in history was also the most humble. Today, we live in a world obsessed with morning routines. Productivity gurus tell us to check our phones, review our goals, optimize our schedules. But Marcus Aurelius did something completely different. He spent his mornings not trying to control the world, but learning to understand himself. If you're ready to discover how true power begins with radical self-awareness, how great leadership starts with deep humility, and how the strongest people are those who acknowledge their weaknesses first, then stay with me. Because what you're about to learn will fundamentally change how you begin each day. Who was Marcus Aurelius? Before we explore his morning routine, you need to understand the extraordinary context of Marcus Aurelius' life, because it makes his humility even more remarkable. Born in 121 AD, Marcus Aurelius wasn't supposed to be emperor. He was chosen by Antoninus Pius, adopted as his heir, and groomed for leadership from a young age. But unlike most heirs to power, Marcus was also trained in philosophy, specifically Stoicism. By the time he became emperor in 161 AD, the Roman Empire was at its peak. It stretched from Britain to the Middle East, from Germany to North Africa. Marcus controlled the largest economy, the most advanced technology, and the most powerful military force on Earth. But here's what makes him unique. He never wanted the power. In his private writings, he expressed reluctance about ruling. He would have preferred to be a philosopher, a teacher, a student of wisdom. Yet duty called, and he answered. For 19 years, Marcus ruled during some of the most challenging times in Roman history. Plague swept the empire, killing millions. Germanic tribes threatened the northern borders. Political intrigue and corruption plagued the government. Natural disasters struck repeatedly. Most leaders would have become paranoid, ruthless, or detached from the suffering of their people. Instead, Marcus became more compassionate, more wise, and more committed to virtue. He personally led military campaigns against the Germanic tribes, spent his own wealth to help plague victims, and maintained justice even when it was politically costly. How did he do this? Through a daily practice of what he called morning discipline, a routine that prepared his mind and character for the challenges ahead. This wasn't meditation as we think of it today. This was practical psychology, applied philosophy, and emotional preparation all combined into a powerful daily practice. Ritual 1. The Mortality Reminder. Remember you are mortal. Every morning, before dealing with the affairs of empire, Marcus Aurelius reminded himself of a simple truth. I am going to die. When you wake up in the morning, he wrote to himself, remember that you and everyone you will meet today are mortal beings. This day might be your last or theirs. This wasn't morbid thinking, It was liberating perspective. While everyone around him flattered him, told him he was divine, treated him as if he were immortal, Marcus grounded himself in reality. Think about the psychology here. When you remember you're going to die, several things happen immediately. First, petty concerns lose their power over you. The senator who insulted you yesterday? The general who questioned your decision? These become trivial when viewed from the perspective of mortality. Second, you become more present. Marcus wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." When you remember that today might be your last day, you stop living in anxious futures or regretful past. You become fully engaged with what's actually happening right now. Third, you develop urgency about what truly matters. Marcus had unlimited time to waste, unlimited resources to squander, unlimited distractions available to him. But the mortality reminder created focus. What deserves my attention today? What will matter when I'm gone? Modern application. Before checking your phone, before reviewing your to-do list, before anything else, spend 1 minute thinking about mortality, yours and everyone you'll interact with today. Notice how this shifts your priorities. Notice how it makes you more patient with difficult people and more grateful for simple pleasures. Ritual 2. Character preparation, difficult people training. Today I will meet meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly people, Marcus wrote in what might be history's most famous morning affirmation. But he didn't stop there. He continued, "But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own, not of the same blood or birth, but the same mind and possessing a share of the divine." This is psychological genius. Marcus was preparing himself mentally for the difficult people he would encounter, but not by building walls or armor. Instead, he was cultivating empathy and understanding. Think about what most people do when they anticipate dealing with difficult people. They get defensive, they prepare arguments, they build resentment before the interaction even happens. Marcus did the opposite. He prepared compassion. He reminded himself that difficult people aren't evil by nature, they're struggling with their own ignorance, their own pain, their own limitations. They share the same fundamental humanity as he does. This wasn't naive optimism. Marcus dealt with senators who plotted against him, generals who disobeyed orders, and governors who stole from the treasury. He knew people could be genuinely problematic, but he also understood that his response to their behavior was entirely within his control. By preparing compassion in the morning, he could respond to difficult people from a place of strength rather than reactivity. He could address problems without becoming bitter. He could maintain his integrity regardless of others' behavior. Modern application. Before starting your day, mentally prepare for difficult interactions. Instead of building defenses, cultivate understanding. Remind yourself that difficult people are usually struggling with something you can't see. This doesn't mean being a pushover, it means responding from wisdom rather than emotion. Ritual 3. Gratitude before complaints, appreciation practice. While most people wake up thinking about their problems, Marcus began each day by acknowledging what was going well. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, he wrote, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into this world to do? This wasn't forced positivity. Marcus had genuine reasons to complain. The plague had killed his children. Wars drained the treasury. Political enemies threatened his life. His body was often sick from the stress of leadership. But he understood something profound. Focusing on complaints first thing in the morning programs your mind to look for problems all day. Starting with gratitude programs your mind to look for solutions and opportunities. Marcus practiced what we might call role gratitude, appreciation not just for pleasant things, but for the opportunity to fulfill his purpose. He was grateful for the chance to serve, to lead, to contribute to something larger than himself. He wrote, In the morning when thou risest unwillingly, Let this thought be present: I am rising to the work of a human being. Why then am I dissatisfied if I am going to do the things for which I exist and for which I was brought into this world? This transformed work from burden to privilege, challenges from problems to opportunities, leadership from stress to service. Modern application. Before thinking about your problems, spend 2 minutes identifying 3 things you're genuinely grateful for, including the opportunity to contribute your unique skills to the world. Notice how this changes your energy and perspective for the entire day. Ritual 4. Mental rehearsal, preparing for challenges. Marcus practiced what Stoics call negative visualization, mentally rehearsing potential challenges and setbacks before they occurred. When you wake up, he reminded himself, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. But also remember that today you might lose what you love, fail at what you attempt, or face situations that test your character. This wasn't pessimism, it was preparation. By mentally rehearsing difficulties, Marcus developed 2 crucial abilities: emotional resilience and practical wisdom. When you imagine loss before it happens, you appreciate what you have more deeply. When you rehearse failure before attempting something, you're less attached to specific outcomes. When you prepare for character tests, you're more likely to respond virtuously when they arrive. Marcus would visualize military defeats, political betrayals, natural disasters, personal losses. Not to torture himself, but to prepare himself. He wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." This mental rehearsal prevented him from being blindsided by difficulties. When challenges actually arose, he'd already mentally processed them. This gave him a tremendous advantage in maintaining composure and making wise decisions under pressure. The key was balancing preparation with acceptance. Marcus would think, this difficult thing might happen today, and if it does, I will respond with virtue. But I won't waste energy worrying about it or trying to control it. Modern application. Spend 3 minutes each morning mentally rehearsing potential challenges, not to worry about them, but to prepare your responses. Visualize yourself handling difficulties with grace, wisdom, and integrity. This mental practice makes you more resilient when challenges actually occur. Ritual 5. Values alignment, daily compass check. Before making any decisions or taking any actions, Marcus reminded himself of his core values: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. Every moment think steadily, he wrote, as a human being, as a citizen, as a mortal creature, what is in your power and what is not. This values alignment served as a daily compass. No matter what pressures he faced, political, military, personal, Marcus had a clear framework for decision-making. When senators pressured him to make popular but unjust decisions, he consulted justice. When fear tempted him to avoid necessary but dangerous actions, he consulted courage. When excess was available to him in unlimited quantities, he consulted temperance. When complex problems required solutions, he consulted wisdom. This wasn't rigid rule-following. Values provided direction, not dictation. They helped him ask better questions. What would wisdom look like in this situation? How can I act with justice here? Where does courage call me? How can I practice temperance? Marcus understood that external circumstances would constantly change, but internal principles could remain steady. By aligning with his values each morning, he created inner stability that no external chaos could shake. He wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." Modern application. Identify your 3 core values. Each morning, remind yourself of these principles and ask, how can I embody these values today? What would they look like in action? Let this guide your decisions and responses throughout the day. Ritual 6. Physical and mental assessment, inner inventory. Marcus conducted a daily assessment of his physical condition, mental state, and emotional readiness. At dawn, he noted, ask yourself, am I prepared in body and mind for what this day requires? What do I need to strengthen? What do I need to release? This wasn't self-criticism, it was honest self-awareness. Marcus understood that leading others required first understanding himself. If he felt physically tired, he would acknowledge it without judgment and plan accordingly. If he noticed mental fog, he would take steps to clarify his thinking. If he detected emotional reactivity, he would practice the disciplines needed to maintain equanimity. This inner inventory prevented small issues from becoming big problems. By catching physical fatigue early, he could rest strategically rather than burning out. By noticing mental confusion early, he could seek counsel rather than making poor decisions. By detecting emotional instability early, he could practice self-regulation rather than reactive leadership. Marcus wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The inner inventory was his way of claiming that power daily. He couldn't control plagues, wars, or political intrigue, but he could control his preparation for handling them. This practice also cultivated humility. By honestly assessing his limitations, Marcus remained teachable, adaptable, and connected to his humanity despite his immense power. Modern application. Spend 2 minutes each morning checking in with yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally. Notice what you're feeling without judgment. Identify what you need to be your best self today: more rest, clearer thinking, emotional regulation, or something else. Ritual 7. Service commitment, purpose before power. Marcus ended his morning routine by recommitting to service, reminding himself that his power existed to serve others, not to serve himself. "In the morning when thou risest unwillingly," he wrote, "let this thought be present: I am rising to the work of a human being." This final ritual transformed his entire relationship with power. Instead of asking, "What can I get today?" he asked, "What can I give today?" Instead of, "How can I benefit?" he asked, "How can I serve?" This wasn't altruism for its own sake, it was practical wisdom. Marcus understood that power without purpose becomes destructive, that leadership without service becomes tyranny, and that privilege without responsibility becomes corruption. By committing to service each morning, he aligned his enormous capabilities with meaningful purpose. This gave him energy rather than draining it, fulfillment rather than emptiness, legacy rather than mere accomplishment. Marcus wrote, "What brings no benefit to the hive can bring none to the bee." He saw himself as part of a larger organism, the human community, and his individual success was meaningless unless it contributed to the whole. This service commitment also provided a check against ego and self-importance. No matter how much power he wielded during the day, each morning reminded him that this power was a tool for helping others, not a trophy for personal glory. Modern application. Before starting your daily activities, ask yourself, how can I serve others today? How can I use my skills, resources, and opportunities to contribute to something larger than myself? Let this purpose guide your actions and decisions. Conclusion. The paradox of power and humility. Marcus Aurelius ruled the Roman Empire for 19 years and is remembered as one of history's greatest leaders. But his secret wasn't superior intelligence, strategic brilliance, or political cunning, though he had all of these. His secret was beginning each day by remembering he was human. While others sought power over the external world, Marcus focused on power over his internal world. While others tried to control events, circumstances, and people, Marcus mastered his responses to events, circumstances, and people. This 7-part morning routine wasn't just personal development, it was leadership development. By preparing himself mentally, emotionally, and spiritually each morning, Marcus could lead with wisdom rather than ego, respond with virtue rather than impulse, and serve with purpose rather than self-interest. The paradox is profound. The more Marcus reminded himself of his limitations each morning, the more unlimited his positive impact became. The more he practiced humility in private, the more he could wield authority in public. The more he focused on serving others, the more others wanted to follow him. Your morning routine might not prepare you to rule an empire, but it can prepare you to rule your own life. You might not command legions, but you can command your attention. You might not make decisions affecting millions, but you can make decisions affecting the people in your sphere of influence. The principles Marcus practiced work at any scale. Mortality reminder creates urgency and perspective. Character preparation develops emotional intelligence. Gratitude practice generates positive energy. Mental rehearsal builds resilience. Values alignment provides direction. Inner inventory maintains self-awareness. Service commitment creates meaning. These 7 rituals transformed a reluctant philosopher into history's greatest philosopher-emperor. They can transform your mornings from rushed chaos into intentional preparation. They can transform your days from reactive stumbling into purposeful living. The question Marcus would ask you is this: will you use your mornings to prepare for the day, or will you let the day happen to you? True power, whether you're leading an empire or just leading your own life, begins with the humility to prepare, the wisdom to prioritize, and the courage to serve something larger than yourself. Start with just one of these rituals. Practice it for a week. Notice what changes in your energy, your decision-making, your relationship. Then add another. Marcus Aurelius didn't become a great leader overnight. He became one through daily practice, one morning at a time. If this ancient wisdom transforms your mornings, share it with others who need it. Subscribe for more practical philosophy that bridges ancient wisdom with modern life. And remember, you don't need to be an emperor to live with imperial self-discipline. You just need to start tomorrow morning. What ritual will you begin with? Stay disciplined. Stay humble. Stay stoic.